have no leaders. You are also the only person responsible for your actions. Do what you think is right. Do not what you think is wrong. How many anonymous are there? We are more than you think. We are more than anybody thinks. We are many. And you are now one of us. Welcome to Anonymous.
This ain't just another echo in the lobby. Trying to move around me, I'm a celestial body. Godly with the flow, and you know where I'll be. In the back screaming out, fuck Illuminati. While I'm at it, fuck the Anunnaki. Fuck a Nazi, fuck a commie, fuck a Ponzi. I'm out here killing it, all that I'm giving up. Constitution was written, Obama just rips it up. Yeah, as if these laws ain't strict enough. They try to blow my spot, but the bombs ain't big enough. Walls ain't big enough, raw ain't real enough. The big bad wolf is back and the straws ain't thick enough. Kicking up dust when I'm getting up, cause if I'm tripping or I'm slipping, I ain't flipping out with it, man. I'm twisted when I'm switching it. You listen when I'm spitting, but you're missing it, cause you're just sitting and getting a buzz. What?
We are anonymous. We are anonymous.
We are anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous. Expectos. Expectos.
We are anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous.
We are anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous. Expectos. Expectos.
We are
I
anonymous.
refuse to stay here and relay the rest with the sheeples. I'm a die in a library playing chess with the reaper. Beneath us is a pile of dead professors and teachers. The only thing they taught us was that they could never teach us, and they can never reach us. We too far gone, long beyond the deepest regions. Intelligent creatures, philosophers, the deepest thinkers. We are anonymous. We are legion. We are the peacekeepers, but still fight for freedom. We are the meat eaters, but still fight for vegans. We all here for the same cause, unite the reasons. I've already seen too much blood, my eyes are bleeding. We need to wise up, stand together and rise up. Time's up, we're not trying enough. Gotta get fired up, cause I'll die for a human. Die for my country, die for your rights. And while I'm dying, what you doing?
Dear brothers and sisters, now is the time to open your eyes. There is something terribly wrong with this country. If you have not yet woken up to the reality of the police state we've been warning you about, I hope you realize we are fast running out of time.
The biggest thing that was really the turning point for me, personally, was one argument was brought forward that I could not ignore anymore. And the biggest one that it was the fact that when we look up at the night sky, we're supposedly a spherical Earth orbiting, the sun at 93 million miles away, where we take an orbit pattern of 350 million miles.
Yep.
And we never see any constellations in the sky merge across each other. There's no parallax shift with line of sight that we have with the constellations. And when we're supposedly on an axis and we're wobbling and, we're traveling on the other side of the sun at some point during our a half year passing, that never happens. We never observe that in, natural space. We don't see that. And that was one of the biggest things for me because, geometry doesn't lie. Trigonometry doesn't lie.
Yeah.
There's pseudoscience and then there's actual empirical science. And I tend to lean towards empirical side of it now.
Gotcha.
Basically, without losing people, I guess...
Let's say we can go slower. It's okay.
For anyone that doesn't know, max observable distance, roughly, for the horizon out to sea is about 15 to 18 nautical miles, depending upon humidity and dew point and all of that. I've actually been outside with binoculars, with high-powered telescopic devices. We have access to certain things like that. And as a ship is perceived to be dropping below the quote-unquote horizon, all you got to do is zoom in on it, and all of a sudden, poof, the bottom of the ship where it meets the water is back in observance again. And this doesn't add up, because at 15 nautical miles, there's several feet to be dropped around a curved Earth.
Yeah. So
it just doesn't add up at all. Other systems, if you want to compare them, the only thing we feed into our systems at all, and it's only on a plane system. We have this piece of equipment, and I'm sure quite a few people are familiar with this, but we use gyros, right?
Yeah.
And these gyros are powered on our ship, and basically they stay stationary once they're spooled up, and we have to power them up before we get underway.
Yeah.
And this information from this gyro is fed into all of our radar systems and all of our weapon systems, and all they account for is the pitch and roll of our ship. So we can account and send that information to, compensate. Like if our ship takes a huge roll, it compensates our weapon system to aim higher, if need be. And if you look at the coordinate system for that, there's no curvature in that at all. It's just a plain model.
That's great. So basically what he's saying there, folks, in case you've missed anything yet, is that there are no weapon systems currently in the U.S. Navy that are using curvature, or the Coriolis effect. It's something we've suspected for a little while now, but nobody's actually said it. Anyway, with us is a very special guest and a guy who I think is going to change a lot of stuff here. He is United States Navy, Robert. He is a NATO Sea Sparrow Surface Missile System Instructor. That is a mouthful, or otherwise known as NSSMS for short, and a Master Training Specialist. And he's basically coming out and saying that, look, he has access to all sorts of fun toys and tools out on the high seas. And everything that he's seen, from the curvature of the Earth to the Coriolis effect, and even the navigation, which we haven't even touched on yet, is basically showing that it's not a globe. And at the very least, it's there's no curve and it's not spinning. And if the navigation's wrong, well, it all kind of points to the same thing, doesn't it, folks? I scour the internet as much as I can, and what I miss, other people send to me. They say, "Have you seen this? This is the greatest thing ever." It's like, no, I've got the greatest thing ever, and it's this guy right here. The navigation systems currently being used right now. You said that, so you guys are using basic GPS designed by the DoD when you're out there, right?
Yes.
But you said when courses are being plotted, if you're using basic trig, the GPS system is not matching up with manual calculations. Can you expand on that at all?
I can. Basically, how we navigate, we base it upon, like I said earlier, our gyro. Our gyro feeds into a lot of how our navigation actually works. GPS is actually a backup. We do not actually use it as our primary on board ships, which should say something to a lot of people.
Yeah, since you think that would be the Bible, it's like, wait, it's a satellite-based system. It's error-proof. And even if, and you probably watched the clues, even if the planes are being dropped from the GPS system, the military should have full access to everything. There should be full coverage. It's a global positioning system. But you're saying you guys do it, it's not even your primary.
It isn't. Like I said, we use our gyro that we spool up. That's, anyone that knows about a gyro knows that it's on a planar module. That's the only way they work.
Yeah.
And basically, it's used as our dead reckoning direction of how we plot, how we travel, and what instruments we actually have on our bridge to be able to tell what direction we're going. And we use GPS kind of as a backup if that system ever goes down, like if we lose our gyros.
Wow. And were you instrumental? I mean, were you kind of on the pulse of both those systems?
Gyros, I just know about them on the limitation of what they input to my system. Okay. I'm not a gyro technician, in all fairness, but we are all trained and know how they work, and we know what model they work off of, and it's only an X and a Y model at any given point. So,
and the X and the Y model, for those of you who haven't remembered anything, that just means it's flat. You're not using anything else.
Yes, one of the things that always struck a chord with me, looking back on it, is how long it actually took us to get to different parts of the world. Meaning, specifically, if the Earth was a globe, we should be able to take, spherical trajectory to a destination, and that's, anyone that knows anything about, math will know that the hypotenuse is always the shorter distance. And that spherical attribute to it, we should get to a said destination based upon how fast we're going, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And that should play into it, and that should be all that you have to take into consideration. But, whenever you look at it, these distances sometimes take much shorter of a time, or sometimes they take a lot longer, depending upon where we're going in the world. And there's nothing to account for that, because I can tell you that, we know how fast our ship goes, and when we're at a steady cruise speed and nothing's changing it and we're not stopping for any reason, other than to do boxes out at sea, we do a whole lot of boxes. And sometimes looking back on that, I always wondered why we did that. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, trying to mask how long it actually takes us to get to certain places.
Explain real quick. Sorry, I have to back up. The boxes. Explain that for the layman that's never heard that.
Basically, and this is something people can look up too. We basically, depending upon where our area of responsibility is, wherever in the world, we'll just kind of sit in an area and just do boxes out in the sea. We'll just do circles, over and over and over again.
Okay. But you're saying that sometimes you suspect that sometimes when you guys are just going in circles, it's because you want to kind of mask the fact that the destination's going to be off.
Yes, I honestly, looking back on that, that's what I surmised. And, I'm not trying to get to the speculation side of it. I'm trying to bring forth truths.
Sure.
And that is my speculation, I'll be fair. But it makes perfect sense when you actually think about it, because when you look at it and compare it to other evidence like southern hemispherical travel by airplanes, stuff like that, like you said, how they just fall off the face of the world pretty much.
Yeah.
No pun intended. It adds up, If you look at it and you compare facts with facts, it makes perfect sense. And there's not a whole lot of room to account for that, because when we're cruising and we got a mission to do, we're cruising. We're not lollygagging around. We're staying full speed.
Yeah.
And based upon the distance, and I've mapped it out before, the east coast of the United States over to the Mediterranean, and it should have took a certain amount of time, and it ended up taking less time than that. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because we don't go faster than that.
And when you say less time, you mean by days or
by
hours?
days?
By days. What? So you're supposed to be there on Friday and you show up on a Tuesday, type of thing?
Well, not that crazy, but
bad.
But bad. It's quite a bit off. And I've been on deployments before where we have a max speed and we can't break that speed by limitation, and we've gotten there earlier. And I'm like, so I've made this trip before going across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean, and it took us 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As where I went across it before and it took us a week and 5 days.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because now we're getting into something that's bordering on Jonathan's area of expertise, which is you're saying that okay. So the first time we'll just throw out examples, because I know you're not going to give out. We don't even know what ship we're talking about, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're crossing the Atlantic and you're doing, let's say, max speed because you're on mission, you do it in 2 weeks, but all of a sudden the next time you do it 2 days ahead of schedule, even though physically you shouldn't be able to exceed that speed.
Yes.
Wow.
I have had that happen before, and I never thought about it, in this light, because I got off that ship back in 2012.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, we've had plenty of times that's happened. Especially, I've been down to South America. I've been across the equator, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And circumnavigation, when we go down that far, seems to take a lot longer of a time for us to travel from point A to point B, and it doesn't add up.
Wait, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
When those experiences happened to you, were you assigned to the USS Aldrich by any chance?
No.
Nice. Do you even know what the USS Aldrich was?
Refresh my memory.
That was the Philadelphia experiment, where they were kind of messing around with the unified field theory, and made the ship. They were trying to make the ship go radar invisible, and supposedly it actually shifted into another dimension temporarily, and all the crew members went insane. You gotta look that up sometime.
Insane. I meant that they were trying to do time travel. God, you don't have to insult the guy.
No, I wasn't insulted. That's why I don't like you very much sometimes. Watch it sometime. It's a great 80s movie called The Philadelphia Experiment. But, I'm sorry, back on track here, because this is really cool stuff. So, you do the trip, and I mean, look, let's get the obvious question out of the way. Doesn't it kind of freak people out that are on the bridge when they all of a sudden the radar shows up a landmass? It's like, oh yeah, we're here. You know, people start looking at their watches going, that's a little odd. You know, when you show up 2 days early,
There's so many
rub?
masks, you know, there's so many carrots put in front of people's faces. I just don't think, think about it, it's not a negative thing.
No.
People don't think about the positive stuff, like, oh, we got here earlier, cool.
Oh, there's extra money in my pay grade this year. They overpaid me this month.
But
they only scrutinize the bad things, you know.
But you'd think that, I know, I should be practicing what I preach here, because even if a navigation nerd, you know, who wasn't going to go do shore leave and down a fifth of rum, you know, if he wasn't going to do that, maybe he's looked at this going, I wonder how my math was off, and he can't figure it out. So it's like, you know, Jesus threw it in the back of his head, and he didn't think about it again. But if you do it over and over,
You know, you just remind me of. I just have to put this out there. I'm sorry.